fun time using my voice. I was in the insane asylum room as a patient, hence all of the blood and half of a scrub. So most of the things I was doing was moaning. The occasional wailing scream or whatever. And of course, joking.
There's just something weird about fear. Sometimes when people get scared, they'll start laughing. There's just something, I don't know, instinctual about it that people just really like.
So fear from a psychological perspective is complicated. I wouldn't say there's any one model certainly there's no one model that everyone agrees with, but there's probably not even any one model that is kind of truly dominant. A little more complicated model of once again, of emotion that I think is necessary to define fear is the three-dimension model, or the three systems of emotion. And so for fear, it tends to be associated with various physiological responses that are associated with sympathetic arousal, so racing heart, dilated pupils, sweaty hands. Various cognitive factors like a narrowing of attention, improved memory capacity, things like that. And then the behavioral response is typically associated with fight, flight, or freezing. You can kind of think of that last piece, that behavioral piece, as being the output that the physiological and the cognitive are kind of preparing the organism for, right? So one of the reasons why your heart races when you're afraid and your muscles tense up when you're afraid is because you're getting ready for one of those responses.
I don't know if I would say I enjoy being scared, but I mean, it gives excitement.
This is all fake, right? Like, it's not real, like, they're not gonna hurt me, they're not gonna try and do any harm to me. I like that aspect of it. If I were alone in a parking garage and some random man was trying to hurt me, yeah, no, I don't like that. I don't want to be near that. But like, this was fun. So I like that, being scared like that.
Yeah, I think I like being scared to a certain point, because it's different from everyday life. You get to experience some adrenaline. But other than that, don't necessarily.
What is that point?
What is that point? Where I feel like I want to leave. That's the point.
I do not enjoy being scared. I wanted to leave the entire time.
Yeah, I like being scared. I think it's like, I don't know, it's like a feeling that's like fun. It's not like you're like walk around.
Your adrenaline pump.
Yeah, you feel like you walk around school and you're like, I'm scared right now. It's just like a fun feeling to feel.
Yeah.
And obviously like you know it's gonna end. Like watching a scary movie, you know it's gonna end. So that's actually you feel like it's part of like getting like parking garage. Yeah, it can't hurt you.
John Carpenter, of all people, said horror films should be frightening, but not too frightening. And so what I run into, I'm kind of old school, psychological, slow burn horror. And when I teach horror, the first thing I have to get past is a lot of, you can't touch me, can I top this? That doesn't scare me, I've seen it all. And gore, disgust is not dread or terror. And the Stephen King said, I go after these various emotions, but if I can't get that, I go for the gross out. So I get that. Or the sort of, what do they call those, jump scares. Those are cheap and easy to come by, and once it's over, it's over. And the horror that really motivates me is a lot of these films, students go, well, that didn't scare me. And I'm like, well, how did you feel the next day? And they're like, well, it kind of disturbed me. How much did you think about it later? And what I like from psychological horror is this seed of distrust, and it's usually about subjectivity. It's something is wrong, but I can't put my name on it, and I'm not running from anything precise. It's vague, but it's pitched way up high.
So with the makeup, you basically want to do anything that doesn't look like a normal person, because jump scares themselves are scary because you're not expecting it, but when you add a factor like gore or makeup or something in that kind of context, it scares people a lot more because they're not expecting you to look like that. In the room that I was focused in, it was the Exorcist room, so really using a white face paint makeup and then like dark rounded eyes to make it look shallow and scary, and then like blood coming out of the eyes. So kind of using the fear of a traditional exorcism movie where you see the demon coming out and having blood and doing all this damage to the body. So that's what our room, and it was dark in there, so that also played into a fear. It is dark.
Just kind of spitballing for the most part, and also kind of thinking of like my own behaviors. I would probably go back to those 3-dimension model, the 3 domains of fear, and also that valence by arousal model. So let's actually start with the valence by arousal. So if you're in a haunted house and I don't know, like a chainsaw clown jumps out at you, my guess is that physiologically you're probably going to feel the same thing, right? You're probably going to feel your heart race, you're going to have your pupils dilate, your palms are going to be sweaty, right? That's probably no different than the person your buddy who you dragged in there who didn't want to go, who's legitimately afraid, right? So I think the big difference then is going to be that valence, right? That like-dislike. The person who enjoys scary movies, enjoys these haunted houses, they're not going to view the murder clown as being as bad as the person who's afraid of it. They're probably also not going to view those physiological symptoms, that racing heart, as being as like dangerous or maybe aversive. And I think that also plays into that 3-domain idea, that the appraisals or the cognitive treatment of the murder clown or the horror movie is going to be different between someone who likes it and someone who dislikes it, right? And so one person might view it as legitimately threatening, or once again, like might even just view their emotions as being really uncomfortable. Whereas the person who likes it might think like, oh, this is fun. Like, oh, this is really, stimulating. This is really exciting. And so I think those, I guess, put most simply, like the meaning of the stimulus and the experience is probably quite different between those people. So the valence and the cognitive domains, I'm guessing, are going to be quite different between those individuals.
That was a shitty answer.
No, it's okay.
Don't use that part.